The Becoming Flame podcast broadcasts pure, unfiltered power exchange that stokes the flame of your being. Because it's time to remember. It's time to return. It's time to become flame. I am so excited to talk to you about how to design, how to live your passion. Because there are lots of people out there in the world that say, just go out and live your passion. Just do what makes you happy. And I think they're half right. But I think the part that doesn't make sense to everybody, especially when you're not living in your passion, especially when you're not fully on focus and on form about what it is that you're here to do, is that it feels like a trade-off between what you're here to do, what you're passionate about doing, and then secondly, about how you're going to make that work, how you're going to pay your bills, how are you going to, get your car fixed, how are you going to get your life in order, get your house in order. And I suppose it comes down to one single thing. Faith. And I'm sorry that it's no more magical of a formula than that. But it's not easy to have faith. Sorry, it's not. Because guess what? If it were easy to have faith, you would already have it. And not only that, everyone else in your life, in your world, in the world, would live from a place of complete trust and faith. They would live in this realm where it's really obvious that everything that you want is going to happen. But that's not the reality. We live in a world with people who are really, really fearful, who feed fear, who feed scarcity, who see lack in everything. It's not just grumpy old men who like to say the glass is half empty. But there's that inner child sense of awe, sense of wonder, sense of complete openness to what could be and what is about to come. And it's this concept of always living in Disneyland that really irks a lot of people because they seem to make many people around me very uncomfortable with this concept that there's always an answer to something. And it's not as infectious as I might have naturally thought it be. There have been times in my life where I chose fear, I chose smallness, I chose lack, I chose the safe route of what's in front of me. What I'm asking you to just investigate, just be curious about. I'm not asking you to slash the tires of your life and run off and join some crazy cult right now. What I'm saying to you is, what could you open up to investigation? What could you shift your mind around in terms of allowing yourself to live from a place of passion, a place of joy and of love? Because I say these things over and over and over again, right? And you're going to hear this from me many, many more times. I'll probably never stop saying it. When you do put your passion at the center of your life, you open yourself up to miracles because you're saying these things are most immediate for me. These things are most important for me. These things fill me with the most amount of joy and passion and purpose and exuberance and excitement for life. Then I jump out of bed and I'm excited about my life and I start feeling the pulse of what it is I'm here to do running through my veins, running through my being, and I get compelled and it feels like I'm moving through life from my chest, from my heart, from my openness. And things start to happen, doors start to open when I didn't previously think that doors would open. So this is the time to not hold back, to not edit yourself, to not say, well, that will never happen because I have no evidence to support that it has happened in the past. What if just for now, and I'm not putting a time frame on it, because for now could be the next 10 years of your life, and the now could be the next 10 seconds of this recording. But what if, for the now, we could say, anything is possible, anything. And so if you are deeply passionate about running a multi-million-dollar company, but right now you don't have a single client, I don't care. That's your passion. That's your dream. That's why you're here. And you're probably like me and you're using your business as your vehicle for self-realization. Maybe your thing is to live a life of an artist and sell your art and touch people through the artworks that you create. Maybe you want to do something that's crazy and unheard of and create a body of work. When I first started opening up to my gifts, what I wanted to do was create a unique body of work that was just mine. And prior to that, because I was trying to control the outcomes of this, the first embryonic form of this kind of thinking came from wanting to do a PhD. I wanted to produce a body of work. I always knew that I would be a writer. And for those of you who don't know, I'm in the process of publishing my first book. But how did I get to this point? I wrote it down as my passion. I wrote it down. One of my passions is to become a best-selling author. And nobody's really saying exactly in the same way, in the same form, exactly what I'm saying. Everybody has their own opinions and everybody has their own philosophies, but it's how do you bring that to ground? How do you create what your special, unique gifts are for you in this world? How do you start? That's what I hear all the time. Great. I want to know how to live my passion. Great. Yep. Cool. Put my passion at the center of what I do. Yeah, get it. Blah, blah, blah. And it's really easily dismissed because you hear it as a soundbite over and over and over again. Live your passion. Don't go to work. Make your work your passion. Make your work your love of your life. Never work a day in your life. Well, I'm sorry to say that even in the work that you love doing, even when your work is fun, even when you don't call your work, whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're going to have to work really, really, really hard to get through that barrier from the non-physical into the physical. And you're going to come up against a lot of trial, tribulation, failure potentially, just tension, just density at the border. I call it at the border because we're moving from the thought plane, from the dreamscape into the physical reality. And there's a gestation, there's a birthing period, and then there's the actual birth. Now, for any of you who have actually given birth, you know that it's not smooth sailing at that crossover between the before and the after, the pre-birth and the birth. And your ideas and your dreams are the same. If you're not passionate about what you're really doing, guess what? That work becomes really tedious, really uninteresting, hard work, struggle, labor. And eventually we start to say, you know what? My enthusiasm for this is tapering off. Or I'll just do the busy work instead of getting back into what the purpose is. If you can really bring this down in such a way that is so, so, so easy to understand, easy to follow, and you have no more than 5 things, passions that dictate your life, because they already dictate your life, you're just getting strong awareness around it, then you start to know what kinds of decisions you want to make in terms of opportunities and doorways to go down. Now, the difficulty that so many people who come through to work with me have is not that they don't know necessarily what their passions are, is that they have so many opportunities to do absolutely anything. And they don't know where to start. They don't know which one to choose. So that's the first problem. The second problem is the goals are so big, so global, so much further away from where they are right now. Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness, how do I even begin to bridge where I am now into this amazing, incredible, abundant, huge global dream that I have to be doing? So let's use the example that we can all sort of talk about is writing a book. So, I mentioned, okay, one of my passions is to be an author. Well, guess what? The day before I'd written a word, I still had that passion. I still saw that for myself. I still woke up every day fearing my life because I was about to become a best-selling author. Now, let me tell you something. The time that I feared becoming that was before I had written a single word, because I didn't fear becoming that author as much as I feared not knowing how to get there. So the moment that I started really owning that and being really, really clear of saying, you know what? It might be a big goal and it might be very ostentatious for some people to say that. And it might be too big for some of my friends or for some of my family. And there may be many doubting Toms that come along and say, oh, really? You can't just do something self-published or just write an ebook, or why don't you just, chill out and have a good time? Like, who's going to read your book anyway? The concept of anyone saying all of those kinds of judging, doubting things to me was so debilitating that I refused to say my deepest dream, my deepest passion. And so I stopped writing altogether for a really long time. Whereas when I started to really own the fact that I was passionate about being a writer, about being an author, really specifically, my passion was to be a best-selling author. There was so much space in that. And it felt like all of a sudden I stopped running from myself. I stopped trying to hide what I truly, truly wanted and was destined to become. And I realized I was putting so much more effort into thwarting that dream, that desire, that passion, that goal, that purpose than I was if I were actually just to sit down and write the book. Now, when I did sit down to write the book, I felt very, very strongly to go and rent a secluded house in the middle of the rainforest with no internet, no phone, no real connection to anyone else. It was totally off-grid, solar power, water tank. The days that were raining, there was no electricity, and I wrote by candlelight. Until my computer turned off, and then I wrote by hand. And I was so supported in this passion that the house was so easily found. It was in driving distance. Someone else organized it all for me, invited me to move in. I said, I'll go for the weekend. I stayed 8 weeks. And during that 8 weeks, I had to take care of nothing. All my finances were sort of sorted themselves out. I prepaid the house. I actually found that some miracle of God, I'm someone who never has cash in my wallet. And I don't even remember. Maybe someone put the cash in there. I couldn't tell you. She said to me, how much, how many weeks do you want to stay? And I opened my wallet and I said, look, I've got $1,040 exactly on me. And she said, well, that's 2 months rent. That's like exactly 2 months rent. And I said, okay, that's really cheap rent. Where I come from, that doesn't buy a whole lot of time. I will stay. If I've got $1,040 in my wallet, never have cash. I am a credit cards person right to the end of the day. Okay, here we go. For the one day that I have cash and the exact amount, it was all syncing up. And so she leaves, and literally I was left to write my book for 2 months. Now, I don't know how to write a book. I didn't want to sit down and at first I wanted to sit down and be like really logical about it and, write out certain, the contents page and all of that. But that felt really icky and it felt really difficult. So instead, the next morning I woke up, I went for a swim in the lake, and I started connecting in with nature. I started connecting in with myself. I started feeling who I was again. And I fell deeply into that. And I fell so in love with myself day in and day out that after 1 week, it felt like I had already been there a year. And one morning I woke up and I just opened my computer. I was sitting outside in the rainforest on this beautiful table that I had put together, setting up my sacred space, which is why I advocate for everyone to set up a sacred space, because you want to sit there, you want to create there, you want to be in that energy, in your own energy. And so I sat down, made myself, some beautiful hot beverage, and I was sitting listening to the birds, and I just had this inclination that I was going to start writing then. And I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote. And at the end of 8 weeks, when it was time to go, I had written the entire course for the Unleashed Soul. And then I had written 200,000 words of a book. And I didn't know how to write a book. So what I did was I wrote what I knew. I wrote what I knew how to write from a place of deep love, of connection, and of connection to my passion, of connection to my love of writing. I let go of the goal that I wanted to be the perfect author with the perfect format, with the perfect, structure and how everybody else structures a book. And then I just sat and wrote because I was passionate about writing. I was passionate about what I was here to teach and to bestow upon the world. Now that's a specific example to me, but the takeaway points is the outcome, the expectation of what would be at the end of that project was let go of. And instead I tapped into the joy of the creation process itself. How did I do that? I connected with the things that make me feel amazing. Nature. I love rainforests. I love clean streams. I love the beach. I love the animals. You'll see if you've ever visited my website, the only two things that are on my website other than me is nature and animals. So I surrounded myself with the things that I absolutely love to get me into this vibrational framework of creating from a place of love. And this is actually a part of the story that I forgot. While I was there, unbeknownst to me, I had zero inclination of going out and meeting other people. But a happenstance occurred where a man, as I guess, thought that he was coming to visit a friend of mine who was staying there with me for a little bit of time. But what he actually came to do was meet me, I guess. And he was this person who came to really help activate so much knowing within me and connect me to higher parts of myself and deeper parts of myself. And that was what I was needing to really get into the essence of the book. And so I wouldn't have ever written down on a goal sheet, send me XYZ man with XYZ skills to activate this part of my, this part of myself that I don't even know exists yet, that is integral to me creating this book. And so my point here is, when you live aligned to the concept of your passion being, not just I want to write a book, but I want to write a New York Times best-selling book. Not I just want to run a business. I want to run a multi-million-dollar conglomerate, or I want to not just run one retreat. I want to run 15 retreat centers around the world. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, what is it that is that thing inside of you that maybe you've never really even admitted to yourself? Maybe you want to create a school. Maybe you want to build cities in a different way. Maybe you want to invent something that's going to save the world. I don't care what it is, but don't hold back at this point, because my example is just something that we can all sort of relate to. But if I started to layer in all of the miracles that happened at a day by day by day by day by day by day by day step, in terms of how your life comes together, it's this sense of modern pilgrimage where you don't need to leave your life necessarily, because your role here is to learn how to ascend. You learn how to bring your magic, bring your power, bring your strength into the concept of the life that you're already living. We want to manifest the life of your dreams from the life that you're already living. It's not about destroying what already exists because that's wrong, that's bad, that's low, that's crappy, it's not working out. But we do want to cultivate what is what we want. We want to open up our experiences to what it is that we want now, and let the stuff that doesn't really match that desire, doesn't match or add to or deliver that passion, to simply dissolve itself, fade itself into the background. It's not about making these big sweeping statements of, going from 0 to 100 and slashing things out of your life and saying, well, this doesn't fit and this doesn't fit. And, it's a massive clearance sale and everything must go. What if this all became a lot easier than that, and you didn't necessarily need to, have breakups with people or things in your life? Rather, you have makeups, you have creation ups, whatever you want to call it. What if you said, I'm going to put what I really, 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 really want, what my heart is yearning for, what I know in my heart to be mine, because I've been dreaming about it for decades. I know what it looks like. I've been dreaming about it at night in my sleep. I dream about it at day when my mind wanders. If I'm on public transport, I've stopped at the traffic lights. This is where my mind goes. I know exactly what I want. Now is the time for you to put that at the center of your being. It's time for you to say, that passion that keeps bringing my mind back to itself over and over and over again is now time for me to put that at the center of my life and to allow all aspects of my life to rise up to that vibration, to meet it at that vibration. So there are 4 stages. There are 3 main stages that we go through, and then I'll talk about the 4th after this. But the first one is we grow. We grow from where we are, and that means there's a separation from where we've been at right now into where we grow up into in a second, in the next second, in the next second, in the next second, in the next second. We want to grow our vibration and raise it 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. And feel how just raising your vibration of 1 centimeter upwards floods your entire being with love. And then you move up 1 more second, 1 more second, 1 more centimeter, 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 1 like this. And all of a sudden, you've just made all of these little micro adjustments to your life. And it's a year later, and you look at what you've created and you think, oh my goodness, how did I even get here? How is this now where my life is? And that's what's possible for you. So I'm a big advocate for daydreaming. And then stabilizing yourself into that vibrational shift. So you understand what you want, you raise your vibration, you grow yourself into that desire, into that new vibration, into that new frequency, into that new self. And then you have to stabilize there. You have to, it's like, that's the attunement. You need to attune yourself. You need to normalize that. You need to stabilize that. You need to not go up and down, up and down, up and down. But in the beginning, that's what it's going to feel like. And that's okay. So there's a stabilization period while you're moving through into that, I don't want to say plateau, but that resting point of that higher, of that next peak. You're going to stay there for a while. You're going to recalibrate your life to that point. Okay, so you finish first grade, you don't go all the way to 7th grade, you go to the 2nd grade, and then the 3rd grade, and then the 4th grade, and the 5th grade. Because if you get to the 7th grade after the 1st grade, you don't know what you're doing there. That doesn't make sense to you yet. But so many of us have such impatience to get to high school, to get to university, to get, beyond university, and we're only in grade 1. And so we can start to breathe out when we live aligned to our passions, because when we're in our passion, we know that where we are right now is so perfect because we're having so much fun. And we actually start to move faster because the energy of fun, the energy of joy is really high frequency, which means that a lot of the stuff that's not aligned to joy, not aligned to fun, it's going to be churned out. It's going to be just naturally dissolved because, you're aligning to the things that make you expand, that make you feel good. That's why when you come home from having a great day out, first of all, the day flies when you're having fun because the frequency of fun is a higher frequency. And so the time changes. You've now upped your vibration. So if you want to know what frequency and vibration means, think about the day that you're really, really bored waiting at the DMV versus having fun in total element, with all your friends, all your family. You're doing the thing that you absolutely love doing. Ooh, goodness. Did you hear that thunder? There's a confirmation for you. Ecstatic claps of laughter from the sky. So we go through growth, then stabilization or attunement, and then we need to integrate. We need to integrate that into our life and into our bodies, into our beings, into ourselves, into our psyches, into our minds. And then that integration process is about embodiment. That the fourth step then is about embodiment. It's about grounding into that, and it's about making that now our new reality. So how do we make a passion go through these stages? So let's talk about that a little bit. We start to say let's just, for the sake of an example, talk about growing a business. I have a business that I would like to start and or grow. Okay? So whatever that means. So my business. Now, in order for me to get into a place where my business starts to thrive beyond what it's currently doing, I need to do my inner work. I need to advance myself. I need to open myself up to expansion and development and new ways of thinking and being and knowing in the world. I need more skill set. I need, a new energetic vibration aligned to abundance, aligned to prosperity, aligned to service, and aligned to my purpose. My business is a manifestation of my purpose on this planet. And so if I don't like the business that I'm doing, it's going to be really hard for me to really invest myself into that. If I don't feel so deeply connected to the product or the service that I'm offering, because what I'm offering is an extension of me. What I'm offering is an extension into my soul, into my deeper value set. I'm offering what I believe is important in this world, that lacks in this world, that I want to infuse this world with my magic. And so whatever your magic is, your business is a way for you to infuse the world with your energetic signature. And so the more you want to gift that to the world, naturally you're going to want to grow. So you want to grow your business, but you also want to grow yourself simultaneously. So this is the growth phase. Eventually, you're going to come to a point where, you're going to get so, especially in startups or something like high growth industries, the businesses grow so quickly that they actually need to take time to stop growing, to stabilize into that, because otherwise they won't have the capacity to put in mechanization around the business. They won't be able to systemize or create structure or create any kind of foundation upon which they can build further success into the future. And that means that the business will just be floundering. It'll be constantly running behind itself, trying to keep up. And it has no automation of processes or processes themselves. It has no systems. It has no mechanization. It doesn't have a foundation. It doesn't have a value set. And the employees that maybe, are newer into the business, who don't necessarily know the value or the vision of the company, come in and they're like, well, there's nothing to hold on to here. It's just a growth train. It's just a speeding bullet. There's no foundation. There's no substance. There's nothing behind it. So we need to actually, bring our energy back in, incubate that, stabilize ourselves there, and put foundations to what we've just grown through. We need to root into that now. We can only grow as high as we are rooted. And so this stabilization phase is really about rooting into that, stabilizing ourselves into that phase of our lives. And so attuning to, okay, this is now my life. We went from struggling business into huge growth. Then, now, so let's think about it from an income perspective, just as an individual. You graduate from high school and you probably don't earn very much. maybe, minimum wage, and you're just doing a basic minimum wage job and you get a few hours here and there. And let's just say you earn $500 a week. Now, by the time you graduate from, maybe university or maybe a trade, or you have some kind of skill that you now sell for a higher value, you jump up a pay grade. So maybe now you earn, I don't know, $1,000 a week or $2,000 a week. And that seems like a lot of money for you at the time. And eventually you get more experience and you grow in your career, you grow in your skill set, and you offer more and you have more experience, and people value you more because you've gone through that growth period. And so eventually, you get pay rise after pay rise after pay rise. Now, if you go through from a pay rise of, say, $500 a week as a high school student, and you graduate in a very high earning industry after your, some kind of training or degree, and you go from earning $500 a month to earning, I don't know, $5,000 a month, that's a 10x pay increase. You're going to think that you're the richest person in the world. But eventually, you'll find ways to earn that money. You'll find ways to realize $5,000 isn't that much money per month, and you're going to be ready for a new pay increase. And maybe you get this massive jump up, and you go from 5,000 to 10,000, so you double your income. Well, you've just now created a whole another $5,000 a month that you didn't have before. And all of a sudden, that seems like a huge amount of money. And so you need to stabilize into that. You need to calibrate yourself to earning that amount of money. Okay? Eventually, you get a new job offer and they say, we're going to pay you $25,000 a month. And you think, oh my goodness, I thought $10,000 a month was a lot. Now they're offering me $25,000. How am I ever going to do it? How am I going to, is it right to earn that? Oh my goodness, it seems too much. And eventually you come into a life where you earn $25,000 a month consistently. And you start to understand, oh, this is actually, this is good. I like this. I feel comfortable here. This is good for me. And so maybe the next amount is $50,000 a month or $30,000. It doesn't matter. The point being is that each point that we grow, we're initially very shocked into that reality of saying, wow, I've got this amazing dream now and it's coming to me. And you have to stabilize into that. You have to calibrate yourself. You need to attune to that new level of financial mastery, of personal finances. And so what's really relevant here is that you need to root down into that now, because that's now your new reality. But at the first instance, it's a big shock because you think, wow, I just earned $500 a month and now it's $5,000. That's a 10x increase. I need to really get my mind around this. I need to calibrate to a completely different way of living and being in the world. Well, that's the exact same thing as when you change your vibration. It's the same thing as like you've now won all of this extra, you've 10x'd or 20x'd your income almost overnight. How do you even it's going to take a moment for you to really feel comfortable spending money because you're so used to eating $2 ramen noodles and, living in a really maybe crowded share house. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that maybe you've got to learn about how to spend money. Maybe you now think, okay, well, maybe I should buy some nice sheets for my bed because I didn't have any before. Or dinner plates. I'm just trying to think of all of the student houses that I've been in over the years and think, oh my goodness, I never lived in them. So every time I walked in, I was like, oh my God. There are no sheets on the bed and there are no plates in the cupboard. So, I mean, what is your version of that as you shift out of a lower vibration into a higher vibration? Another way of saying that is, as I shift from, a contracted lack place into a higher place of possibility, of joy, of complete opportunity, what opens up for me? And so what I'm saying to you is, what if we put the opportunity that you're wanting to step into in front of you in a really clear way, in the kind of way that you actually actively emote that into being. You see that passion, you know that passion, you feel that passion. The moment that you get into that passion, you see it, but you feel it. You know exactly what it is that you're going to do and be and feel when you're living aligned to that passion. And you go there often and you get so in tune with that passion being your reality that when it shows up in your life, you need less stabilization because you've been waiting for it. You've been readying yourself and conditioning yourself for that passion to arrive in your life in a glorious, miraculous, and easy way, that when all of the extra miracles show up, then you're even open for them too, because you're not stuck in a stabilization period of going, oh my goodness, I now earn $5,000 instead of $500 a month. So you're already living in the vibration that you're somebody who earns $5,000 a month. You meet the vibrational perspective of someone who earns that $5,000 a month. So then when a new apartment shows up to get you out of the share room that you're in, then it's really, really easy to realize, oh, this is what I've been asking for. This is the evidence, the physical material evidence of the vibrational shift that I've just made. Do you get that? It's like you're actually in reality earning $500 a month, but you're vibrationally attuned to the person who is earning $5,000 a month. So when that job shows up to actually give you that paycheck, and subsequently the apartment shows up, then subsequently the clothes that you need in order to get to the job, etc., etc., etc. It all just flows and doors one after the other open. And that is what you need to know about being in the vibrational match to that which you are actually asking for. But more importantly, that is evidence of getting into alignment, living closer to your purpose, because now, without you having to go and do anything, those opportunities are coming to you. Okay? So evidence of this in life is you're having these thoughts of, this is what I would like to do, this is what I would like to be, what I would like to have. Magic wand is waved, and here it is. How does it all start? By putting your passion at the center of what you're doing and making sure that the universe knows that you are working towards and being willing to align to that being your reality. This is shifting the paradigm around goal setting, it's shifting the paradigm around manifesting, and it is shifting the paradigm around how do you raise your vibration, how do you in a really logical way, because you can catch on to this. This is something that you can actually see, know, feel, touch, and get evidence of. And as this course progresses, you'll start to understand, how do we activate your light body? How do we embody and emblazon what we're setting up here? But this is the foundation that we can make really, really rapid shifts to before we complicate things with what's happening on a larger energetic scale. So I swear by this method when I say put your passions at the center of your life, because your whole life will shift and the universe will create that reality around you. It is true and it is seemingly effortless. Good luck, not only with this assignment, but for receiving everything that you are now available to receive by living this way.